to the Ethos podcast. I have no idea what number this is because this is getting recorded in parts in between episode like 5, 6, 7. I don't know. It's going to be somewhere. But this is a kind of a special topic that I've had in my mind / in my heart for quite a number of years. And it's as a competitive player who is going to be spending a large amount of time, money, and effort on 40k. How do you get your partner involved? And then there's a bunch of questions involved in that. And in general, this is about partners in 40k. It's like, should you get your partners involved? What is the breakout moment, etc., etc. So I want to start this part of the episode because it'll be the first one of 3 because I've got 3 wonderful partners as well as my own that I'm going to be talking to. But the general thesis that I have, and I wrote this down, so I'm just going to kind of read off this a little bit. I believe that, so my wife, Sonia, Mendoza Hernandez, and I believe that without Sonia's indirect and direct support, I would not have been able to play at the competitive level for as long as I have been, nor achieve the things I have, such as go to the WTC 3 times, winning the whole thing last year with Team Australia, play and captain the ATC, so Australian Team Championships 8 times, winning 6 so far of those 8, and captaining that as well, and then and playing, I'd say it's getting closer to like 50 to 60 plus actual interstate events, not including ones that's in Queensland, as well as having family and things like that. And so the having what I'd consider in my mind achieving all the things almost like the society or humans expect of one another, and having the family, having friends, and being a good son and a good father and good all this type of stuff, but then also having and playing in these kind of competitive high level events. I don't think I could do that by myself. I think I know I can't. So that's my general thesis. That will probably be the longest explanation of it because it's the first one. But I want to introduce you to my guests today. So I'll start with Sonia because I'm staring right at her. And we've got Sonia. Can you please introduce yourself to your hordes of fans who are now hearing from you for the first time?
Hello, my name is Sonia Mendoza. I'm Simon's wife. What about me? I'm the mother of Delita, of 4 children between 12 and 8 years old. Mm-hmm. Busy, full-time mom, and also for the last 3 years, more or less, I started to get into painting the miniatures for Simon. Also, the first time I saw 40k, I said, what the hell is that? And okay, I don't understand it. Move on to MLA life. It's his hobby, more or less.
Excellent. All right, so we'll go into some more specific questions in a bit, but let's jump to the other lady on this call, Miss Chelsea. Can you introduce yourself?
Absolutely. Hi, everyone. My name's Chelsea. I'm Matt Morosoli's partner of 8 and a little bit years now. I am a full-time teacher. We don't have a litter of children, but we do have 2 cats, which is almost the same thing, just with a little less pain. I guess in terms of 40k, I tried to build models one time, but it turned out to be much more frustrating than I thought. I thought it would be a lot of fun like Lego, but it was actually not a lot of fun because the glue kept getting stuck to my hands. So in theory, I love that. But I guess in practice, my kind of, I know we're going to go into it a bit more, but my kind of entry into 40k is more on the social aspect of like attending events, hanging out with people, helping Matt to TO events that he's run, and carrying a lot of trestle tables.
Mm-hmm. You get your cardio and weightlifting at the same time.
Absolutely, and then I don't do it again until the next event.
I love it. Alrighty, and our other gentleman of the hour, man of the hour, Matt.
G'day guys, I am Matt Morosoli. I am a player for Team Australia. Played in a bunch of different events. I've been to an ETC and a WTC. Simon's got one on me there, as well as I think he's got a couple of ATC events on me as well. But I, do competitive 40k things. I am a part-time coach for the Art of War, so I do some content for those guys, and I work with coaching clients. So I spend a lot of my time doing 40k and 40k related things, including what seems like at the moment to be 2+ international trips a year and a bunch of interstate events. And I think that what you've sort of spoken about to start with, Simon, is something that I would definitely agree with. I think that there's probably not a lot of people who could have 2 international trips a year plus 5-6 interstate trips a year and maintain a healthy relationship without getting their partner somewhat on board. Mm-hmm. Obviously, I've got the added benefit of not having kids, so there's less people reliant on me at home that I need to be around for that obviously you do. But I can definitely relate to a lot of what you were saying in your little intro there.
Yeah. And you're playing yourself down a little bit in that you're an absolute gentleman to play with every time we play. So it's always a pleasure, mate.
Oh, thanks. I think you and I have had probably 5 or 6 at this point games. I think they've all been excellent. Mm-hmm. So the exact same to you, mate. You're a gentleman to play against. We always have excellent games. They're always very high quality, and I look forward to getting to play you when I turn up to an event and there's a chance I'll play you. I'm always very excited.
Excellent. Alrighty, so we'll do the first part. We've done the first part. The next part is the initial questions about the partners, just setting the scene. So you guys touched on it a little bit, but I'll start with you, Chelsea. Did you know, so before you met your partner, did you know anything about 40k?
Absolutely not. I didn't even know. I'd never even heard of 40k when I met Matt. I won't throw Matt under the bus too much, but Matt did not talk to me about 40k for probably a few weeks into our relationship, but then thought that it was a wise decision to tell me about it, and took me to an event. And I guess it was quite overwhelming. I think one of the first events I went to was EastCon, and it was at the Ringwood Scout Hall where we held VTC last year. Mm-hmm. And there were all these, guys saying hello and, people who were really lovely, and, talking to Matt and making fun of him a lot, which is obviously fun. But it was very interesting kind of introduction to 40k because I still didn't really know what it was, mm-hmm. Because Matt's not a big fan of explaining what it is to people who don't know anything about it. Mm-hmm. But yeah, no, had never heard of it. I still don't explain it in the way or describe it in the way that Matt likes when I explain it to random people that walk through events and always seem to ask me what's going on. But
Toy soldiers, obviously.
Well, no, I kind of explain it as World of Warcraft crossed with chess, crossed with lots of dice.
Look, I say advanced chess, so that's not too bad.
Yeah, I think people seem to understand it after that, and they smile and they go off on their merry way. So I feel like I've done a positive thing for the community there.
That's right. Or maybe they're still thinking what's World of Warcraft?
Well, yeah, that's true. A lot of them do know, but yes, you're right.
Excellent. All right, so Sonia, same question. Did you know anything about 40k before?
No, the first thing, for starters, I'm from Colombia. I came to Australia 16 years ago. And the first time that I saw Simon playing 40k was in a summer day at his mom's house with his brother. They took over the whole floor downstairs and they just put this big table with these things, and I said, what are they doing? And I started to look at them, and they were measurement and feet and inches, and I didn't understand anything. I said, yeah, they're playing whatever they're playing, just go away. I come from a country that these kind of things for me didn't exist at all. I think for most of my friends over here in Australia, they are from Latin America. They ask me, what is Simon again doing? What is the thing that he plays again? I was like, all right, let's explain you for the 50 and n times again.
How do you explain it?
How I explain this? It's just, look, they have this universe. I start to explain a little bit of the universe of 40K. And they have these miniatures and they have rules, and these guys wants to take over this guy. They go into a war, like guerrillas world. So we understand about the guerrillas world and say, all right. So I trying to explain in words that accommodate our, so to speak, background. Mm-hmm. And then people, okay. Oh, for the Aussie people, I say, yeah, it's like chess, dices, and a parallel universe in the future with things that are like elves and orcs and robots and things like you don't imagine will be existing. Mm-hmm. And people just say, oh, good.
Yeah.
Well, good. And I think it's cool when you were in the WTC last year. One of their teachers, the most happy teacher, the one that, the kids told me that your husband is overseas in a world championship. Yeah, he's doing 40K. Oh my gosh! All right, you know what is 40K, so I don't have to explain to you. And what else he's doing? Yeah, he's doing right. He just started, so they're fine.
Yep. All right, so Chelsea, when you went to that event, you said, you were kind of introduced to 40K. What was your initial kind of thoughts or reactions?
Really thought much about the game. Like, obviously, Matt and I hadn't been together very long at that point either. It was more like just overwhelming that like there were so many people, because that whole hall was full, and I don't know, probably I'm gonna say it was 100 players. I don't know if that's how big events got back then, but 100 players. And it's like so many people, and like they all talk so fast, and it's all words that mean nothing to me. And I know they do mean
Sonia's giggling right now.
Like, like, yeah, and they're like talking about 3-ups and this and that's got Overwatch, and like, and it's, I don't want to say I have a similar feeling now. Like, it's obviously less overwhelming, and like in the room of 100, I probably know most of the people, or I've met them before. So that aspect's a little less overwhelming, and especially remembering people's names. I still don't know some people's names, and so if you're listening and I've forgotten your name, I'm sorry, but I'm just not good at names. But I'll remember like, oh, they're the person with the cool lion model, or like there was a guy that painted like just a Labrador, and it was his dog. At an event, so like I'll remember that, and then I'll be like, oh, you're that guy, that's fine. But yeah, I guess on the actual game, I think it was just, it's so complex, and it's only gotten more complex in like over the last 8 years, that my opinions are more just like, wow, how can you remember that much information? Because I put my hot chocolate down and I forget that it's there 5 minutes later, let alone remembering all the rules for all the things, and then like remembering all the rules for the other army that you're going to play, because it's not even just about remembering the things for your own army, which some people still struggle to do because they're still learning, but then you've got to know like what the other people's stuff does vaguely at the very least, so that that they're telling you the real information, or you can help them if they don't know.
When you were describing it before, I was just thinking to myself, it's like when you maybe walked into that first event, it's like the concept men's shed, like where men go to just hang about and kind of spend time with each other. It's like 40K events, not to say it's exclusively men, because there have been women over the years at these events, but it's almost like that, where it's like a congregation of people, like-minded people, who maybe naturally wouldn't congregate, and it's like they go spend some time together and with like-minded people and just commiserate. It's like the rest of the world has no idea what this is, but we do.
Yeah, and like you walk in and there'll be like all these jokes or like things that are happening. Like we had a friend come to TerraCon with us this year, from overseas, and They're building their little beer staff things where they duct tape the beer cans that they've drunk together. And like, if you just saw some guy duct taping beer cans into a staff on the street or at really anywhere else, you'd be like, oh, that guy's a bit weird. But at Terracon, they're a god. And like they're, like, wow, look at that guy, isn't he so cool? Which he is. It's a fantastic concept. But yeah, it is almost like you're in this community where the rules aren't different, but the rules are kind of different. Like, certainly the social rules are, that don't apply outside of that kind of space.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right, and the last question of this kind of part, and I'll start with you, Sonia. So, how would you describe how you think you contribute to my 40k playing, in essence, or my 40k world? How do you contribute to it?
Well, I just was remembering when the first time that we went with Antonia. Antonia was just 1 year old. And we went to America. And you talked to me and say, look, we are going to America and I play this 40k. You started to take over again 40k. And I said, yeah, and? Well, over there, look, the price here of these models, of this series here is this much. In America is this much. And if we go to Texas, they will return us our taxes because we are tourists. Yeah. Yes. And
no sales tax, yeah.
So he was telling me the idea, oh, come on, can I, like, ask me, can I buy this present for myself? And I said, yeah, whatever. Just do it. Just let's go buy it. And then I started to see, you took me one day to GW and I said, oh, their paints are cool. I said, what was interested more in the graphics and in the painting than the game itself for myself. And then you start to say, look, I want to play this game again and I feel like I want to do it. And you commission your cousin to do the tables for the things. And I was like, yeah, whatever, it's your game, your hobby. As long you remember, we have babies at home because, well, Antonia was 1. We were about to have Natalia. So we just were starting a family. And, well, it was getting a little bit busy because we were sorting out Antonia already, were 1 year old and waiting for Natty. But you were saying, yeah, well, I will take some days off and then I will help you. Say, all right, whatever. And then you met Eric and you start to hanging out with him and start to build up your list. And then fast forward the time, you start to take the kids downstairs. They were babies and you were giving them bottles while you were playing. Well, I was taking upstairs the kids, or I was taking Antonia to your mom's and pick her up on the Saturdays after she was spending the night over there. And you were just kids here, you having games here, and we just like, it came natural to us. Just, yes, it's your hobby, all right, I'll support your hobby. It's like, we discuss, I want to do this, but I would like you told me, I would like to do more of this 40k because I feel like it's pulling me my passion. Look, I'm not going to be I'm not spending money in gambling, cigarettes, alcohol, women's outside the house. So I want this to be like my hobby outside. So I said, all right, let's do it. You do your stuff, and I just want you to spend a little bit of time with me and the kids, an amount of time that is productive for the kids to have their father figure as well in the house.
And so nowadays, what, if you were going to summarize, like, to my mum or my dad, or to a friend, what you do nowadays for supporting me in 40k?
For supporting you, just have your, I don't know,
You cook? Well,
I
like
cook
today's a perfect example.
Today was the example. You invite your friend, he invite himself over to get for a game, or your other friends comes and they bring their kids. So yes, you're welcome to bring your kids. We have plenty of kids here to play with. We'll cook some lunch. I will prepare up something, and
You help
And
hosts
yeah,
when
help
I have
host.
people here.
Yeah, when you have people here, you help. When I helped you with WTC in 2016 when we went to Croatia.
2018.
18.
Yeah.
When
You were the manager.
I was the manager. I was Sonia. I forgot my cards in my room. Here's my car. Here's the key for the room. Can you go and get the bread from Pampek? Yes, I always was helping everything.
And
And even with the Theos, I ended up being friends with our dear Janitza. And she was part of the Theos and became super friend with her. And
nowadays you paint.
and now I'm painting because I said, well, but the easy way that Simon just got a big moon thing for and the goblins for the kids. And I said, I want to paint the big moon. And so I said, yeah, go for it. And then, this is easy to paint. Can I help you? And you say, yeah, sure. Here. And then nowadays I have I've been painting Genocide Skulls.
And Harlequin.
Harlequins. Paint the big ships for your elders.
Dracaris,
the big guy.
Yeah.
The robot guy.
That's right. Sonia finished about 6 months ago a Revenant Titan, which was...
Don't ask me for names because I don't have idea.
Phantom Titan, sorry. Phantom. Anyway, so from my point of view, that's exactly it. Sonia, she not only, when I am off training, for whatever event I'm doing, it's not that she allows me, it's more that she supports my my habit when I go do that, because then she looks after the house, and vice versa. When she needs to go do something or wants to go do something, I look after the kids on the days off, and
we tag team.
When people come over, plays a great host, and then does the painting and the general day-to-day hobby, which is always a useful thing. What about you, Chelsea? So for Matt, I know you TO, and you're an awesome TO. You don't take shit from anybody, which is great. Well, what else do you do to help with contributing Matt's, in essence, kind of ongoing success in 40k world?
Yeah, fair enough. I do not take shit from anyone. Thank you for noticing. I really like TOing events. Like, obviously, I'm not great at the rules calls because I don't know what's going on. But I kind of like that kind of admin part of it. Or like even just like, at VTC, like I sat in the kitchen, I was doing work on my laptop, but people come and chat and they have questions and things that they need help with, or they'll lose things and you have to go find them. So I guess that's one part of what I do. I think similar to Sonia, like when people come over, so I really like it when Matt has people over to play games. Like I'd prefer that he has people to come, and play games with us, than him go somewhere else, because then at least I feel like I'm, not that I'm part of it, but it's like I still get that social aspect, like Matt's still around. Whereas like if he went and played 4 games, like 4 nights somewhere else, we don't often have people over 4 nights at the moment, but WTC is coming up, so I'm sure it'll happen. But like I'd prefer him to be here so I can kind of hang out and be part of it.
Yep, Sonia's nodding as you're going. Literally, that's why she says to everyone, like, you come over our house, I will feed you. But it means that Simon's not having to rush off.
Yeah, exactly. And so like, and most of the people that come over are so lovely, and I know that there are people that have come to do practice games and things with Matt, and they're like apologizing to me for, oh, I'm so sorry, it's like the 3rd game, and I'm like, it's totally fine. Like, but I also know that if I just really didn't want people over and I was like, this is too much, that I could say to Matt, hey, could you not do that? I don't know that I've ever actually done it, but I know that if I asked, he would be like, oh yeah, fair enough, and they'd organise to go somewhere else, or they'd just pick another night.
Well, we have here the kids sometimes says, well, why daddy doesn't have the boys coming over here? And the kids always says when they are at grandma's, I'll go and pick them up. Is daddy at Eric's again? Like, oh, come on. One day that daddy's at home and with the boys at home. When the boys comes here and play here, they are happy because they can go up and down the stairs, socialize with everyone, because they are a very social butterflies. they was want to involve, talk to every single one of the guys, and show whatever they want to show, and pay attention what they're doing, and look at their armies, and give their 2 cents of opinion, and then run off again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, most of the Queensland players, especially people who've come over my house, have met my kids, and yeah. It's fun. It's fun, especially with Federico, that he's been the one who's been more involved in the 40K, because he was a newborn and you were having him downstairs. Mm-hmm. Well, I was dealing with the other 3 upstairs. Yeah. And
40K's in his blood.
Pretty much.
Like, he just goes downstairs and talk to everyone like, it's in my nature. I'm just hanging around with the boys.
Exactly. Alrighty. So, now questions for players. So, Matt, you've been nice and quiet over there. This is probably, you're on a podcast. You've been on many podcasts, but you've talked the least amounts ever. I'm sure you're loving it.
That's it. This is great. It counts as a podcast, but I only have to talk for a third of the normal time. It's a big win in my book, I reckon.
Absolutely. All right. So, did you hide or play down the fact that you played 40K initially? Now, Chelsea kind of mentioned it briefly, but what was your thinking? I've got my answer for this, but your answer to that.
See, Chelsea thinks that I don't remember. I don't think I did. Because, because our anniversary is at the end of January, and by June that first year, that we're talking 4 months after we were together. She came to Terracon, which is a 6-hour road trip and a weekend away with a bunch of 40K players. And I know people who have got, who have been in the tournament scene for 5 years who won't bring their partner to events like that. So Chelsea thinks that I hit it or downplayed it. And look, maybe I didn't mention it. I wasn't forthcoming hey, check out my cool Eldars, right? Maybe I wasn't super forthcoming with it like that. But I also think
on his sports car, that was way more impressive. The roof came.
It was. That was definitely a better win. But also that was 8 years ago, and I wasn't necessarily I was in the tournament scene, but I wasn't probably the person that I am in the tournament scene now 8 years ago. And I think that the fact that that she came with me on that that Terracon, which again, big-ish commitment, full weekend away, with you're spending an entire week with almost no one but 40K players. I don't think I did. Maybe Chelsea thinks I did. I don't think I did.
Excellent. Well, from your point of view, how do you think you kind of introduced them?
I don't remember. I would have just mentioned. I would have just said, "Hey, I'm doing this thing. Do you want to come check out this thing that I'm doing this weekend?" And
okay, so it was actually the event itself, not so much the, you had models lying around or in the cupboard that you had hidden away or anything like that.
I probably did. I honestly don't remember. It was such a long time ago. Chelsea, do you remember if it was "Hey, I'm doing this event. Do you want to come check it out?" Or if it was more that you saw something in my bedroom or the little upstairs study in my parents' place that you sort of wanted to know about? I don't really remember, honestly.
I think it was more an event because at the time, because Matt helped me move out of home when we first got together. He helped me move house. It was an excellent time. And so we spent a lot of time at my house rather than at Matt's parents' house. So I don't even think I really saw a Warhammer model until the event. I think when Matt says, did he hide it or not, I think his intention was, and then I think maybe it came up, or maybe he'd just changed his mind, as he got to know me. But I think his original intention is that, 40K is not cool. But he also is quite, not shy, but he doesn't explain it to people now. If somebody says, "Oh, where are you going?" he'll just say, "Oh yeah, just going for, a trip." Whereas I'm the first person to say, he's on the Australian team, he's playing 40K. And not throw him under the bus, but I'm proud of it. And so I mention it to everybody that will ever listen. So maybe maybe he was just still being the person that he is, and I was just being the person that I am.
That sounds right. I think you're probably right there.
Excellent. Well, I've got a couple more questions here, but it seems like it was just hey, I'm doing this thing. You want to kind of be like baptism of fire, like do a Terracon giant thing. That's your introduction. It wasn't a slowly get them more involved, etc. What about Matt? How did you get Chelsea from kind of passive, just a person who's with you to say, this is what I do, to actually say TEOing an event or like doing more in the 40k world?
I think, look, it would definitely have been a couple of years. We're probably talking sort of, probably 3-ish years in at this point. The first event that I ran was the first EastCon after Sean Hogan and Will Summers stopped running that one. And I sort of ran it because no one wanted to run it. And at the time it was quite an important event on the Victorian tournament calendar. And I just put my hand up to run it because no one was going to do it. And I wanted to do it. And I told Chelsea, hey, I'm going to run this thing. And it was very low effort required, right? This was back when we still had a game store we could use. So it was like the amount of effort required was to collect money from people for tickets, which Chelsea didn't have to help with or really do anything for. Turn up, set terrain up, which Chelsea did have to help for, running around trying to find terrain at this game store and setting these tables up, right? And sticking table numbers on tables the night before, and then just kind of organising people, on the day. And I think that was a very low effort event to run, which also made it very accessible as something to to help out with. And Chelsea mentioned before she likes to do that sort of admin-y kind of role and a lot of other things that she does, and that probably appealed, hanging out. Like I think she probably spent half the weekend on her laptop doing uni work or something at that point, but there were definitely things that she was really helpful with when we ran that event. I think she did paint scoring back because that was still an event where we still included paint scoring and overall. I'm pretty sure Chelsea did paint scoring at that EastCon.
I'm quite an excellent paint judge. I've been contracted at other events also.
That's true. Actually, you did get you've been paid too. You were paid in donuts for doing that.
I was paid in donuts. Actually, I was paid in donuts twice.
Yeah,
2 different events.
And I think the fact that it was like a really low effort, low barrier to entry event, that one to run, it was really easy to get Chelsea sort of involved in helping out running that one. Wasn't like I was asking her to do the amount of stuff I was asking her to do the last time I ran VTC. So I think I've just sort of, gradually pushed the area of responsibility or what needed to be done a little bit more every time we've done a different event.
I also got to pick my own prizes. We had Chelsea's Choice.
That's right, we did do that.
Which is also something that appealed to me. I just got to pick my favourite model and give them a voucher, just because it was the one I liked, not for no other reason.
That seems entirely reasonable.
It is. Well, we did go to an event on the weekend where they had the arbitrary TO award, so I think it's not too dissimilar to that. But yeah, that's probably how we did it, right? I don't remember which year that one was, but it was like it would have been a few years in. By that point in time, Chelsea knew most of the people that I like to hang out with. There are people who are in the community that you are amicable with and friendly enough with when you see them, but you wouldn't necessarily go out and have dinner with them. And by that point in time, she sort of knew the people that I did like and would hang out with outside of that kind of scenario. And I think once you're that level of comfortable, you don't have to be everyone's best mate, but once you're sort of that level of comfortable with your partner's friends, it's easy to sign up to do something like that because you're going to speak to people who and you're not sort of the only person in the room who doesn't know anybody either at that point.
Yeah. And is there anything like we've talked kind of, this question has been kind of answered throughout the conversation, but is there anything that Chelsea directly or indirectly contributes to, from your point of view, from you achieving what you can in 40k that you haven't already mentioned or hasn't already been mentioned?
Look, I think I won the ITC in the Australian ITC in 2018, and that was the year. Sorry, it was 2019. I think it might be 2019. It was the year. No, it was 2018. It was the year they gave the LVO prize the following year. And Chelsea came with me to America, and we sort of had that that holiday. And I think I went back to the LVO this year, and Chelsea unfortunately sort of couldn't go with me. Like we couldn't make the holiday work, and I think it's not necessarily that she sort of never says no when I say, hey, I'm going to this event on this date. It's not like it's I just do what I want to do and it's always fine. But I think it's probably that we kind of just have an understanding that at a certain point, if anything comes up that is more important, that we just drop it. Like there was a tournament we had a couple of months ago back now that I signed up to, and I just didn't realize had clashed with a friend's engagement party, and we'd signed up to it. It's sort of like as soon as you realize that's a clash, you drop the event, you go to your friend's engagement party. You prioritize the things that are more important, right? And like I obviously wouldn't have signed up for it if I'd realized it was on the same weekend, and as soon as I did, I went and fixed that up. But it's not necessarily that she doesn't sort of say no to things that I want to go and do, but I think it's more that I try to get her involved in events, especially again, it's not so much the random Melbourne GTs. It's more the stuff that's interstate or the stuff that's overseas. It's can we make this a holiday? Are there people who are sort of worth you coming and hanging out with? Do we sort of like you just try and make it make as many of these opportunities as possible to turn it into not just a 40k trip, but also a 40k trip and then stuff for you to do with your partner, which I think works pretty well. Hasn't always worked perfectly, but at least sort of if you look at it with that lens, it's easier to find opportunities where you can bring your partner to an event or to a trip and turn it into more than just going away to play 6 games and then fly straight back home.
Yeah, I 100% agree, and I've got a bunch of examples, but I'll do them in other episodes. Other conversations. But one that's sticking in my mind is we've done that twice specifically. The
I was thinking the first ETC,
Battle in the Bush ATC that was down in Melbourne. Yeah. We turned that into a big family holiday of over 3 weeks, where we drove from Brisbane down to Wagga. Orange had the Battle in the Bush, which I won. Went down to ATC down in Melbourne. I think it was 2017, something like that.
Yeah, it was after the WTC.
Yeah, we won that. We then went to Phillip Islands, and that was the whole point of the trip, really. It's like, do 2 events, go down to Phillip Islands so the kids can see penguins.
Go back to Wagga, and then we went to Canberra,
Sydney.
No, we didn't say Sydney. We passed Sydney.
We skipped Sydney. So that was like a big family trip with 2 events in there. And then, of course, the LVO that we both went to in 2020, that was we actually shifted, because originally the plan, we'd been planning to go into Colombia and stay there for a whole year and do the whole homeschooling and all that type of stuff. And Sonia's initial thinking was to leave during the Christmas holiday break, so that we could spend Christmas down, with her parents. And she was very gracious, and I managed to convince her to delay us arriving in Colombia until February, so that we could go to LVO and then drive across America and then go to Colombia and be there in February 2020. And we had tons of fun. You guys with the scene. Yeah, actually, Chelsea, you were there that year, weren't you, in 2020?
Yeah, I was there.
Yeah. I don't remember.
So
I remember seeing Soli, but I was with the kids because you are not allowed to be here. Let's go. I remember I was with trauma with the first time that we just was crossing the casino. The baby cannot be here. It's in a pram. She's asleep. We are crossing.
Anyway, so we did that, and we kind of built the big international overseas trip and that event with what we're going to be doing as a family anyway. And so we kind of there's like ebbs and flows to it. Now, getting into the kind of next part, which is some more deeper, some specific questions, and I just realized I want to add one in particular. Chelsea, did you have any hobbies yourself that pretend all the questions that we've already asked about 40k, just flip them to whatever hobby you might have? And like, have you, did Matt know about them before, you got together, and have you introduced him, and is he doing anything to help out with that?
Kind of. So if people listening have met me, they know I really like cats. If you haven't, you now know. So I actually run or help co-run an animal rescue. So we, foster animals and then rehome them and that kind of thing. At the time when Matt and I got together, I was volunteering in a shelter, which is a different kind of experience because obviously they're not coming to my house. I'm going there, spending time there, and then I'm coming home. Matt had never really had a cat, met a cat, done anything with a cat before he met me. I remember one of the first times he ever came to visit me when we first got together at the shelter was a cat sat on him and started purring, and he asked me if it was growling. Very endearing story. It's not meant to make Matt feel bad because I tell it all the time, but like it just kind of demonstrates that Matt had no idea about cats when I met him, and that's something that's like very important to me. And kind of the way that I've kind of been involved in that community has changed over the time that we've been together, and now we do have foster cats. One of our foster cats went to a home today, and Matt's kind of vibe in supporting me with that kind of, it again ebbs and flows, and I know that it's not his favorite thing to have foster cats coming and going in our house, and I try to be respectful of that, but sometimes there's welfare issues where I'm like, I'm really sorry, but this is going to happen now, and while he gets annoyed, he does get over it, and then he decides he likes the cat. That's kind of the same cycle happens every time.
I guess that's kind of like when, Jez comes over your house and it's like, do it again?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah,
Specifically him too, actually.
Yeah, he's allowed sometimes. He's allowed for the good of the WTC team.
That's right.
That is
from the stray cats that you have. Jez probably pees on your floor almost as much.
That seems fair. You're right. But I don't clean that up. I'll only clean up after the cats. But yeah, so I think Matt is supportive in his own way, and like there are things that I've needed help with, or like like he does lots of work in marketing and things that have helped me with the work that I do in rescue.
Mm-hmm.
So I think he definitely does. Like I don't have, outside of rescue, I don't have like huge hobbies that involve me like going places or doing things. Like I just, things that I can do myself at home. But Matt would never discourage, like if I decided I wanted to, I don't know, take up pottery, I'm sure that Matt would encourage me to do that, take, drop me at a class, go with me if I really wanted him to. I think it's just that I've, with work and everything, I've chosen not to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, certainly with the rescue he does, and as much as he pretends not to like our foster cats, I know that he does deep down. Or usually he waits until like the third day before they're about to go to their new home. But that's okay. That is the person that he is.
Excellent. Well, how so Sonia, I'll throw this one to you. So it's like, how in your mind do you think we juggle, family time and hobby time? Or do you think we still haven't worked that one out?
No, we worked out that one easily. It's just I don't know, it's just like respecting time, the motto that we have, listen and pay attention and respect. And part of that when you say, I want to play this, I want to go back, and when you were serious about it, say, all right, so we just compromise. So you do your training. We know Saturdays is your time for your training and doing your stuff. Last year you said to me that you were going to WTC. Say, all right, go. Okay, no worries.
But I didn't. I didn't agree to it straight away.
Because you said you need to talk to me. Say, all right, you want to go, but I know it's gonna be difficult. I said, don't ask me to go because I'm not going, because we have the kids now in a point that I need to take them to extracurricular activities. I cannot leave them here. It's not like, let's go for a holiday like 5 years ago. So I think we came to a compromise that you go to your tournaments. I lifted at the weight of staying at home with the kids, and it just come to like a second nature. It became like a second nature for me. Like, yeah, I keep doing what I'm doing. It's that, yes, that for me, just Simon is working. Still working. So he goes to work. I say, I procure for the house and do whatever I needs to be done around. Keep painting, keep doing what things that I have to do, or help your mom with whatever he needs to be helped, and keep going.
Yeah. Well, and what about you, you two? How did you actually have like intentional discussions about like how you would juggle or kind of manage the time that you would invest in, say, hobbies or the competitive 40K and the training, all that type of stuff, or is it just come naturally to you guys?
I think, and then maybe Matt can add. I don't know that we ever had a conversation about it. I did laugh earlier when Matt was like, "Oh, like 5 or 6 interstate trips." I'm pretty sure he's been on 5 interstate trips already this year. But like, I also know that I'm welcome to go with him most of the time. Like, there's very few trips, in interstate especially, that if I said, "Oh, can I come?" Matt would say no. It's just that my work as a teacher means that I don't have annual leave to take off. So I can't just, take a Monday off and go away for the long weekend, even though I'd like to. So yeah, I don't know that we had a conversation about it. What do you think, Matt?
No, probably not. I think it probably again, the year I won ITC was 2018, so it probably ramped up around 2018. That was the year that I sort of decided I wanted to try and win ITC, and I went to something. It was something ridiculous. It was something like 18 or 19 events that year. A lot of them were sort of small one-dayers. Like, it wasn't like it was 19 big 6-round events, but I went to something obscene like 18 events that year. And that was probably the most difficult to juggle, just time investment wise. But at the same time, I wasn't really in any sort of important position at work. I think you were still at uni. You would have still been at uni that year, Chelsea. So again, you had more free
working
time.
Casually. So lots of weekends I was already busy, so it didn't really bother me because time wasn't being taken away from us because I was already working.
Yeah, so I'd be coming home around the same time that you would on a Saturday anyway. So that was the year I decided I really wanted to go hard and kind of, do well and win that, and I did. And I think I called it the following year anyway. It wasn't anywhere near as much. But what sort of happened is, as I've gone on professionally, you get a better job, you make a bit more money, you can afford to go on more trips and do things like that. Is that it's turned out that I go to less events, but I'll go for longer. I'll go for, like 4-day weekends rather than just fly up Friday after work, fly home Sunday, be absolutely wrecked for work on Monday morning. Is I'll just go for an extra 2 days. I'll take time off and I'll, fly up on Friday afternoon and I'll spend the day somewhere. I'm going to New Zealand this weekend to help that team prep for ATC, and I'm off for 4 days, just from Thursday through to Monday. And that's just that's something I probably wouldn't have done back then. So I think, we never really had a conversation about it, but I do think that what's happened is sort of the quantity has been replaced with quality. I won't just go to an event just because it's on now. I'll go to things that are important, and what that's sort of allowed me to do is maintain the balance a lot better. We still have, family things that we do. We go to the football with my parents pretty much every week that we can. We do stuff like that, and I try and sort of prioritize, the events I'm going to play around that. But also, there's certain things that come up. I'm just like, well, this is a priority. I'm going to do it, and then we sort of worry about the scheduling later on. But I definitely think it's sort of become a quality over quantity thing.
And I think that's why you're ending up going interstate a lot more than you would have before. I know we love going to Ballarat, and Michael Hamilton runs great events. If anyone would like to come down to Ballarat, highly recommend.
Yeah, I've been there. Good.
And it's lots of fun. They've got custom made tables, so you don't have to bend over so far, which I think is quite excellent. But other than that, Matt goes down to Tassie. and sees those guys and plays their events and wins them. Poor Taz.
They actually brought in a bounty for the first Tassie player who beats me in Tassie, which is kind of cute. I really like that.
Yeah. But Matt will happily go to Newcastle and things like that. So, he might spend the weekend away from me, but I could go. But like Matt said earlier, I don't really say no, but only, not that I don't want to, or that, I'm like, oh, great, Matt's gone. Although it is nice having the house to yourself some weekends. Because, you clean the house and it stays clean and it's great. But I don't say no, but it's not really, it doesn't really occur to me that I'm like, oh, I don't want him to go. Because I have no reason to say no, because I know that if I asked, he would not go. But I don't have a reason to ask him not to, so he may as well go and have a good time.
You also you don't need to be around each other 100% of the time. And I don't mean that in a negative way, but
True.
You don't need to be, meet each other at home every night at 6 o'clock because it's just what you do, right? Yeah. You don't have to do that. And I think that some people, I know some people have partners who are really funny about this sort of thing, who are, really paranoid and are like, oh, what are you doing? Why aren't you coming home? Why would you want to go away if I'm not coming? But you don't need to be around each other all the time.
Yeah. I think that's more of a reflection of their relationship and where it's at, which is okay. But I'm not sitting there going, oh, what's Matt doing? Sometimes he'll go away, and the only thing that annoys me is when he says he'll call before bed and he doesn't. Or he says, I'll call you in the morning. And I've got the message that says, I'll call you in the morning. And then I don't get a call. And I know that round 1 started, so he's not calling me. That's the only thing that does annoy me. If he doesn't say those things, I might not hear from him for most of the weekend. And his mum will message me and be like, how's he going? And I'll be like, I don't know, Kathy. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm the same happened to me, that Simon just goes to his Newcastle or goes down to Melbourne and fly. I'm boarding. All right, boarding. Just arrived, heading to the hotel or whatever they are staying in, and then radio silence the whole weekend. Just send a message during the night and, hey, how it's going? How it went? Any news?
I'll often get pictures of just alcoholic beverages, and sometimes several empty ones. So then I know, don't worry about a phone call. I'll hear about it in the morning.
I actually will get he calls me, hey, just say goodnight to the kids, get me on the phone. I will get those phone calls and say, all right, good. But I think for me was the thing, the biggest one was I stay up to 3 o'clock in the morning when they won the WTC last year.
Me too. I had to set an alarm.
I was sleeping. I was listening to the French guys. Mm-hmm. I said, whatever, I just leave it on. They're still alive. One headphone on my ear, and I have one of the kids because when Simon is away, the kids spend the night next to me in the bed. So I didn't know who was next to me. But when I started to hear, I was between asleep and awake, and they start to yell, Australia. So what happened with Australia? I just woke up. And they start to yell and jumping around. So what happened? And I said, oh, they won.
Yeah, I set an alarm for the rough time that I thought the game would end, because I tried to stay up, and the last time they went to ETC, we had a housemate, and it was really good because he played 40k and he was staying with us, and so he could explain the games to me. But I'm relatively good at working it out, but I can't work it out in French.
Well, the good thing that I could understand a little bit of the French, and they whatever. I just yes, I'm gonna fall asleep if I keep listening to the French guys. I'm gonna fall asleep because that's the thing with the French people, the French speaking, that sometimes it's so boring, so the same tone sometimes that I just want to sleep.
Yeah.
And then they start to yell, and I start to hear the voice on the back of the microphone. They yelling, so what happened? And I just woke up and said, oh, they won. And the first thing that I did was, all right, I started to call Simon. He didn't pick up the phone. He didn't pick up. All right, he's not picking up the phone. Anyway, I just sent him a text.
And then probably 10 minutes later, I call her up, and after talking to Jez, he was, very emotional next to me, and I called Sonia and said, "Yeah, we did it," and it was that type of support. That's fantastic. It's just like that. Not only that Sonia stayed up, and it sounds like Chelsea, you did as well. That you actually. You're it's not that you're invested in our success, it's more that you can see how much effort that we put into and how much passion we put into this, and you love seeing that happiness.
I would say I was invested, like in watching how hard you guys worked, and like knowing people coming over and playing games, and like all that kind of time, and
all the stress they went through. Just all that things that they were having, and all the stress, and well, the timings. You say, yes, we have a family here, and Simon's dad wasn't too happy for him to go overseas again. I said, that's fine. It's just his hobby. Was he making happy? And his man, how is he going? And the first thing when the kids went to their grandparents' house and said, yes, Daddy won. How much money did he won? Was the first question from his mom and his dad. How much money? Did he win any money?
Too, all the time. How much money? I'm like, they won bragging rights and they're world champions. What more could you want?
Yeah, how much is it? The pride, the happiness, they're being proud to be winning that game.
In 40k world, it's usually how much did it cost you to play in that event?
Yeah, exactly. And definitely staying up. Like, I think it also makes you feel more part of it, even if I had to be on the other side of the world. Like, whether or not it would have been useful for me to be there is a separate thing. Like, it was just not possible for me with my job in that moment. And it's the same reason I couldn't go to LVO this year, even though I desperately wanted to, because we were going the year before, but we couldn't because of a family issue. And watching the stream, even in French, but I hear there's English this year, so that'll be nice. Mm-hmm. Even the same for LVO, I watched the stream, I got up at, I don't even remember what time, it was a ridiculous hour. And I was sneakily watching, listening to it at work on my headphones. And it's, I guess, a way of supporting. I know Matt didn't necessarily know that I was watching, and his mum does the same thing. His mum watches the stream. She has no idea what's going on. And she's texting me asking what's going on, and I don't know what's going on, and I have to ask somebody else. But it's a way of supporting him, at least when he calls me and says, hey, did you see what happened, or this happened? I have enough background knowledge of what happened to have that conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so I'll ask one of the questions I did in the intro, because this is I think both of us are very like-minded in the way we approach it and the way we support each other to achieve balance, kind of to achieve what we want and have happiness in what we want, but also be present for each other. But the question I asked was should you get your partner involved in 40k? And I'm presupposing, because based on the people who I am and also the people I'm getting on, I'm presupposing a yes. But is there, from your point of view, any negatives that you can think of or see of getting your partner involved in your hobby or in 40k specifically?
Do you want to go first, Matt?
Oh, I don't think there's any negatives. I just think that at the end of the day, if you like someone enough and you're with them for long enough, you kind of end up sharing the things that you like to do with each other, at least to some level. And look, if they're not interested at all, that's fine. I'm probably never going to have Chelsea turn up to a 40k tournament with an army she's painted, with a strategy she's built up to play the army, and go and do well. But I think for her, she really enjoys the social side of things and enjoys hanging out with those people. And that just sort of goes to she doesn't have to come to every event. She probably comes to only a handful of events a year, but
certainly compared to the past, I think I probably go to less events now, but I think that's more to do with where our house is and where events are running. Like in the past, it's been a 10-15 minute drive from home to the event. So like I could go for part of the day, whereas when it's half an hour, it, makes it a little bit less logistically possible.
Yeah, I just think that like there's no real downside. There are plenty of times where like Chelsea won't even come to an event, but she'll come out and she'll have dinner with me and a few of the other guys after we've had games and stuff and things like that. And there's no real downside.
I don't know that there's a downside. I guess the only downside I can kind of come up with is that they have a personality clash with the people that play 40K. Like, I don't think, because like I said about, it's kind of like a different world. It's not that it's bad or it's good or it's whatever. I think, although in saying that, if a person's with the person that plays 40K, they probably understand the humor and the person and kind of the vibe that goes with that. I think there's not really a benefit in forcing somebody to do something that they don't want to do. Like, we went to Ballarat on the weekend and I spent most of the weekend hanging out with Mark Hamilton in the kitchen. He's one of the TOs. And I had a great time doing that. But like that isn't necessarily every partner's idea of a good time. But in saying that, something that I thought of earlier when we were talking was that when Matt and I first got together, so that first Terracon that Matt was talking about, there were lots of wives and girlfriends and there were like some kids. I think, Sean and Jess Hogan brought, I think they only had one of their daughters. And then there was a number of other people that were there. And it was like this big group of people. And like we go to the Naracoorte Caves. It's excellent. There's little micro bats. Whereas like last Terracon, I'm pretty sure I was like one of maybe 3 wives and girlfriends. And I think that's a reflection. The community has changed a little bit. Like the people that wives and girlfriends were coming aren't necessarily playing anymore. Like you guys, obviously, 4 kids is a lot to travel with. Like logistically, that's a lot of work to be like, oh, we're going to go to Terracon in the middle of nowhere and bring our 4 kids. It's probably easier for Simon to just go by himself. And also cheaper. So what I would like to see is more partners coming to events. I think it doesn't necessarily mean that they have to be involved in the Warhammer part, but there's certainly, I think, a place for what Adam Napier tried to do. I think the year I wasn't able to go to Uprising because of COVID, was they were organising like a winery tour or something for partners, not necessarily the partners of 40K, to go do while, the players were playing, and then we can come back and we can do fun things with our players at the end.
Getting completely sloshed. It's good, yeah.
Yeah, look, that I didn't get to go, but that seems like a vibe for me. Wineries have excellent food too, which is what I was more interested in. So, like, what I'd like to see, this is not really answering the question, but what I'd like to see is more, partners, even friends. It doesn't have to be, a partner, involved in the community, because I think it makes it a more welcoming place. But yeah, I don't know that there's necessarily a negative, but I think there are lots of positives. So even if there are some negatives, I guess you'll see what the other couples say. But even if there are some negatives, I think they're far outweighed by the positives of being a part of the community and having that kind of support for your partner in something that they're, excelling in or wanting to excel in.
And just before I ask you, Sonia, I the thing that you mentioned, Chelsea, about the humour in 40K world, I know that's something that Sonia's gotten to now, because like if she had watched, like, there's a bunch of Instagram channels and music videos and things like that she's started to get really into, and if you had shown her, like, the Ballad of the Grey Sprues maybe 10 years ago, she wouldn't have any idea what the hell that is. But now she's literally sending me Instagram saying, this is it, because she's literally painting up all my stuff.
I just, was Thursday, I found the guy. Thursday night, I found the video on Instagram. It just appeared on my feed. And I just, oh my God, that's me. I just start to laugh and just say, look here, I start to spamming Simon with a lot of those videos. But
Simon,
yeah.
she's so much a part of the community that the wider internet is doing targeted videos now.
Yep.
Yeah. But the thing is, if you don't understand what is 40K, you just you don't show interest. Well, a cousin of our sister-in-law came to do something that, and she saw, what is this? And she's from Colombia. She came here to improve her English. She's studying English here. I was explaining to her what was it, and then we came upstairs because I was showing her what I'm painting right now. I'm painting a bunch of Harleys. And she said, oh my God, this is amazing. And she went to Simon and said, I want to learn how to play this. And I turned around to her, what? Okay.
I did say to her, just wait a couple of months till 10th it drops, because I'm actually going to be teaching my kids, because we've played little, like, I've introduced my kids to playing the game, and like simplified battles where it's like everyone has one unit and you have to go get the Christmas cake or the birthday cake, and then you're fighting over it, etc. So we've had mock battles, and I played with my oldest a 500 point battle where I kind of told her the general rules of the stuff. But I'm going to actually teach them 10th ed because it's meant to be simplified. So
maybe now's the time for me to learn.
yeah, that's right.
Maybe I'll start winning things instead of Matt.
So for me, it's just too many rules, too many things to learn. So I'll stick with the painting. Thank you.
Yeah, but just the actual, just going back to the question, do you see any negatives in that you being part and
It's
learning
just
this?
sometimes as a mom, as a wife, sometimes it's the amount of time consuming, the time consuming of preparation for tournaments that takes away from family time. It will be a little bit of the negative from my perspective. It will be the family time. So because I have to deal weekends with them, I deal with them in daily basis, Monday to Friday. I need just one day, just a little bit of an afternoon, just to not annoy me, go annoy your dad. But when you are on full training mood, it's like, yeah, no, it's not gonna happen. So yes, it's gonna be a little bit of that negative sometimes, but the rest, I got involved with the painting and I like it. There's another partner that will not get involved at all, so they won't just, yes, you do whatever you want to do, that's your gaming, that's it, not involved, not interested, not even to meet the guys. I have known most of the Queensland team for the last 8-9 years. I met most of them, and I talked to them and said, yeah, they're nice. If I have met 2 or 3 partners, it's maximum that have met people that have met.
Yeah. I mean, you've been to a couple of the dinners where like they're all there,
Yeah.
but not really sit and talk with them.
Yeah.
That's all right. Look, I'm conscious of time, and I've thank you very much, guys, for everything. To wrap up, I've got one last question to kind of wrap everything up, and I'll start with Matt. And I wrote this question down, so I'm going to read it out. So, for those with partners that aren't interested in 40K, or maybe even actively dislikes it, do you have any kind of comments or messages or anything that you can think of that might get them on board, or just anything you want to impart on people trying to get their partners involved but they're not particularly keen?
Look, I think it kind of goes back to what I was saying before about like people not being interested in the game but being interested in like the social aspect of something, right? You can have no interest in football if your partner plays club level football, but you can get along really well with the partners of their teammates and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't have to be going to the tournaments and caring about how nicely painted someone's new model is or how well someone did in the game. If you don't care about the game and it's uninteresting to you, like that's totally your prerogative, and you can't force your partner to to care about a game that they're uninterested in. Like, you probably want them to be happy for you if you've done well, and you probably want them to appreciate what you're passionate about. But like, if they're uninterested in it, you're probably not going to change that. But what you can do is expose them to like a social element. Expose them to your friend's partner. If you're going to have your friend come around for a game, get your friend's partner involved. Get them to come around, and they can sit on the couch drinking wine while you play a game, and you can kind of do it laterally that way. One of my good friends, Finn from New Zealand, is coming over to Terracon this year, and he's bringing his partner with him. And she and Chelsea are going to go have winery tours and have a good time doing all that sort of stuff while we're playing games. And she's also she's not like actively disinterested in it. Like she's interested enough, but she'll have a better time hanging out with Chelsea and going to wineries and doing things that they want to do, and then hanging out in a social setting with us at the end of the day. Like we're going to the LVO this year, or next year rather, with the same people as well, right? So I think even if you're just disinterested in the game, get them involved, somewhat at the social level. And look, if your partner hates all of your friends' partners, then I don't know. At that point, you might just be out of luck, unfortunately. But that's what I think.
No worries. Chelsea?
Yeah. Knowing what your partner likes. So, like, I think the social aspect's a really great one. But, like, like you and Matt know more about 40K and, like, all the different aspects. Like, I understand what painting and building things is and things like that. But, it might be that the person really likes 3D modeling or, that kind of thing. Or even, I've never kind of got into this aspect, but I feel like it's one that I'd like. Like, all the lore kind of behind it. It sounds like Sonia really likes that already. But, like, I know Josh Diffie, who you're going to be speaking to, his son has been reading, I don't know if they're codexes or whatever, but he's been reading about the lore as part of his, like, silent, home reading. And I think that's great. Like, I really love reading. So I feel like I'd really get into that kind of story. I know when I was doing paint judging and it, like, had to be a cohesive army, and, like, somebody would obviously have a model that they borrowed from a mate, or they, it was from a different army or whatever. And I'm like, can you convince me why this one is different from the rest of them? And some people came up with some really great stories about, like, with the background of their army, and I was like, works for me. You get a point for that.
Is that not just an Aussie trait to bullshit, through your ass?
Yeah, exactly. It is.
She's been the teacher in that point. She's been the teacher background kick. You explain me why, and I will give you the lolly.
Yeah, exactly. So, like, I feel like even that kind of aspect, like, I love reading. In theory, I would actually probably enjoy reading about the armies and kind of understanding that. I know back in the day you used to have to write, like, a little story about why your army was the way it was.
Really?
Yeah. I've got probably still on my thing. Yeah,
I remember the one that you showed me. The first thing that you showed me was the band. That band.
Yeah, or the old man dance group. That's on my thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, you used to have to write. I think it was like 500 words minimum, and it was when the Games Workshop Grand Tournaments, when they used to run those like 20 plus years ago. That was part of it. To actually get your full painting marks, you had to have a story.
Yeah, and, like, in theory, like, I know we're not out there writing stories, but, like, that might be an aspect that your partner really likes. Like, and, they're not, like Matt said, you don't have to get your partner playing the game. They don't have to paint if they're not good at it. Like, I think I would love painting, but I don't think I'd be very good at it, so I don't really want to do it. Like, I wouldn't even be very average at it. I'd just be bad. But, like, there's lots of aspects that don't have to involve the person going to events either. I wonder if maybe we've kind of missed that, like, being supportive doesn't necessarily mean you have to go to the events. Yeah, although I think it would be really fun.
Like, Sonia, you've been to what? To actual
events?
One, I think, WTC.
WTC.
Other than that, you come in, but you're only there for like 10, 15 minutes.
Yeah, 10 minutes and 15 minutes. And
Yeah.
Or when it's nearly finishing, that you give me a call, it's about to finish.
Yeah.
I just turn up.
Yeah. Only thing WTC
WTC.
when you were the manager, you were actually with us
when
for
I
the
went to
majority
Europe
of the
with you
time.
guys, that's
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. So like I wonder if, people that maybe
Oh,
and
not even
like Matt
LVO.
said, yeah, even LVO, I think you guys just popped in because I think I saw you with all your kids, and then you had to run off and go do other things. Like Matt said, if your partner doesn't like your Warhammer friends, hopefully you've got some others for them to hang out with. But that doesn't have to be the only way they interact with the game and support you. Like it might be, that they help you build your list, or they just listen to you talk about it. Like Matt tells me about things. I have no idea what he's talking about. But like I know enough to. I like to say to people, I know enough about 40K to understand a conversation, but I don't know enough to have a conversation about 40K.
That's
So like
exactly how I describe my Spanish ability.
Yeah, exactly. Like a language, right? So yeah, I think it's hard. Like Matt said, it's hard to convince somebody of something that they don't care about. And I know, that there's partners of long-time 40K people that don't even like them talking about 40K in front of them. But I think that's a separate problem or a separate thing to work through. That's more of a private your relationship thing rather than how can you convince them, because I think at that point that's just it's not possible, and it's probably something that applies to multiple areas.
I think the 40K is like Vegemite, you like it or not, that's it.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to explain it.
Yeah.
There you go, Chelsea. The next time anyone asks like what they're doing in there, it's like they're eating Vegemite.
Yeah, they're liking it, but I don't.
Excellent. All right, guys. Thank you very, very much. We'll wrap it up there. I did say to you, it's like, oh, maybe 30 to 40 minutes, and it's like an hour and 15 minutes later, we're still chatting. But
hopefully, people are still listening.
Oh, look, if they're not, that's their problem. I found this extremely useful myself, and there will be at least, I'll say in the dozens of people who actually care about this.
Excluding me.
That's right. Me. All right, so look, this will be part one of, in my mind, a 3-part series. And thank my guests again, Matt and Chelsea. And of course, Sonia. You guys will hear Sonia again in the future ones. Anything you guys want to plug or wrap up?
Nah, thanks, Simon. Thanks for asking us to be on.
Yeah, I think we've got to go and very quickly have dinner, because in almost perfect form to this podcast, I have someone coming around for a game in about an hour that we're going to have to negotiate dinner and also me playing 40K in the next hour's time. So we're just going to go work on that.
Nice. All right, guys. Okay. See you later.
Bye.
See ya.